Today, we've got Elaine Zelby with us. Elaine is the co-founder and CRO of Tofu, a platform that enables B2B marketing teams to run hyper-personalized AI-powered campaigns at scale. Elaine, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Saharsh.
Elaine is also a venture partner at Signalfire, where she invests in seed-stage enterprise SaaS and Gen AI companies. And before Tofu, Elaine led growth and product marketing at Consensus across 50-plus ventures. She built third-party growth at Slack and helped scale early GTM functions at Capriza. She also holds dual engineering degrees from Stanford. And in this interview, I want to go deeper into why Elaine built Tofu in the first place, how she's balancing AI tooling, a creative strategy in the modern GTM era, and what her role today is as an operator, investor, and founder, and how that shapes how she spots new GTM opportunities. Elaine, to kick things off, could you give us the 90-second pitch for Tofu, who uses it, and what problem you're solving in the AI-first GTM stack?
Sure. Tofu is an enterprise platform for B2B marketing teams to create, manage, execute, and measure personalized campaigns across different channels. So what that looks like in practice is we take cohorts of people who've either shown specific behaviors, so maybe they were on your website, downloaded an ebook, are direct competitors to a customer, have lapsed in terms of being a customer for X amount of days. We take all these different signals or different cohorts of people, and then we create omni-channel campaigns at scale that is contextual to them. It means we are literally trying to understand what is the next best action and next best message for you in this exact time. And then we deliver it on the channels where those people are using the tools that customers already have. So we can execute emails out of Marketo or Pardot or HubSpot. We can post landing pages directly back to your website, ads, decks in Google Slides or PowerPoint, PDFs, all the different the different content formats that a company might need.
Awesome. So how did you arrive on this version of Tofu? And is this what you guys were doing from the beginning when you first started Tofu?
So my history with generative AI actually goes back to 2018. I've always been a tinkerer. I'm always playing with whatever I think is cool. And I'm also very auditory. I listen to an absurd amount of podcasts. And in 2018, I had this idea that I wanted to turn any blog into a podcast because I just never had time to read these blogs and these newsletters that were in my inbox. So I built what we called SoundSpot that could take any blog feed and automatically create a podcast. So you picked your voice, and this was back in 2018. So we were using Google's Tacotron, which was their transformer for speech, and GPT-1, if you can believe that. You picked your voice. It was super robotic, and it would crawl your blog feed daily to see if there were new posts and then auto-generate a podcast. And it was just a little side project, but I was pretty into the whole Gen AI thing from that moment on. And as an investor, I was constantly investing at the intersection of AI and software. And in 2022, when GPT-3 came out, I started getting pitched all of these companies that were building simple wrappers around OpenAI's GPT-3. And it was clear to me that those weren't the thing. It wasn't the big swing, but that there was a step change in terms of quality, and this was going to be real now. So I had actually pitched Tofu as an incubation idea within the VC that I was at. And the VC didn't really incubate, but there was something there, and everyone was really excited about it. And the idea was this. There were two things happening at the same time. Number one, every CMO and CRO I was talking to was like, too many tools. I'm tooled out. We've had a bazillion SaaS tools and I don't want more. I want consolidation. So there was a rebundling cycle that was about to happen. And then the second thing was, it was very clear that generative AI could take the heavy lifting of doing things that were impossible to do at scale. Everything from creating imagery, which at the time we thought was going to be ready. It was not. We'll get into that in a second. Creating personalized emails, personalized landing pages, creating all of that. So that's where we started from. We started with identifying, we actually interviewed about 50 CMOs, and we asked questions around certain things. How painful is it? How ubiquitous is this pain? How willing are you to pay for this? And then how good is AI at solving it? And we landed on this hyper personalization and then building also content repurposing. So being able to ingest something like a webinar and spit out 8 different assets automatically. That has still been kind of the evolution of Tofu. I would say where we are today is much more of a agentic platform for B2B marketing to execute all types of campaigns. Everything from, let's take that webinar. Not only do I need all the content, I need to follow up with all the people who registered and attended. And I want to do that in a hyper contextual way, meaning understanding what is their persona, what is their industry, what is their account, what have they done with us previously. So being able to take a lot of these kind of templatized workflows and be able to intelligently ingest the people, ingest the assets, and then build out a full-blown campaign.
That's super interesting. How do you, I mean, that I think raises a natural question, which is how do you then balance the obvious benefits of automation and the efficiency you get from generating these things with the creative aspect, right? Like, do we still need humans at all then for any of this creativity? And if the answer is yes, then what are they doing now with tofu, right? Like, how do you inject that human creativity, if at all, still into whatever tofu outputs?
We still strongly believe in human in the loop and that we need humans for two core functions. The first one is strategy, and the second one is creativity. And I think I'll break them up separately. So, on the creativity side, this is one of the very opinionated paths that we took early. Our concept of creating content, we don't just say, write me a new blog post. We ingest original content written by humans that we use as the anchors and the building blocks of your blog posts. So we're not just going and straight to ChatGPT and say, write me a blog post on X. It's trying to understand, oh, we just did a white paper on this, a huge 20-page asset. Let's take that and distill 3 distinct themes from it and create 3 blog posts. So we start with the human written content, which means the outputs are a lot better. They're also going to be more unique. They have better, accessibility, both in traditional SEO and that now in GEO, AEO, whatever we're calling it. So that was an opinionated route we took. When it comes to creativity, we also believe that we need to have brand, style guide, unique tone of voice. All of that needs to be done by the team. The strategic piece is, I would say, actually a bigger part of this. That can be more of we do that once a year. We have our brand, we have our messaging, we have our positioning framework. But on the strategic side, who are we targeting and why? That is not something that I'm leaving up to an LLM right now. Otherwise, we're going to revert to lowest common denominator. It is, what is the actions that we want to take? So for example, we can try to help guide people on best practices when it comes to what plays you should run for different types of signals, but understanding you can't boil the ocean. Which ones do you want to do today? What channels does your audience respond best on? How do we meet them in the physical world and pair that physical with the digital? All of those things are strategy that really involve the humans. We also involve the human in the loop a lot more than we need to. And I think that'll slowly go away over time. But I keep talking to people about these 3 phases of adoption of AI. Phase 1 is, I don't trust it. It hallucinates. It is not good quality. It sounds robotic. It uses too many M dashes, whatever we're talking about here. It cuts off people's hands or has 6 fingers. We need to build trust. So that first trust building phase has a lot of human in the loop. Once we start to trust AI more, and as the models get better, we move into the proactive recommendations phase. I still want to see what's happening. I still want to be able to say yes or no with my strategic mind. So we recommend things for you, and then you can take all of the data points you have at your disposal and say, yes, I want to do this, or no, I don't. Phase 3 is where we start to get into truly agentic behavior of, we are setting a goal and we are figuring out how to hit that goal with 0 human intervention. We're still in between phase 1 and phase 2 right now, but it is moving quickly. And that's just how I see things evolving.
Do you find people are trying to leapfrog and just skip to step 3, phase 3, without having actually done the work of building, through phase 1 and 2? And if so, will that actually work? Or do you kind of have to go through each phase sequentially?
I think it depends on the type of person, meaning marketers, not so much. The only thing I've seen from a marketing perspective, and this also depends on the org, whether SDRs sit under marketing or sales, but some of these AI SDR companies, I've not heard of anybody being successful with it to date. So we've talked to a lot of people who've tested out AI SDRs where it truly is running autonomously. It still involves a tremendous amount of setup. So everyone I've talked to, it still is a lot of hands-on, a lot of human in the loop to get it set up. So it's not like a push button, this automatically happens. But even from there, I've heard very minimal success on that front. So I would say that's the only thing I've seen people try to just hey, let's turn it on and see what happens. Outside of that, we sell to medium and large enterprise. So we are not selling to startups, where I think startups have much more appetite for letting things just, let's try it and see what happens. The cost of failure
Yeah.
is lower. And so I think
Yeah.
that also might be a nuance of who we speak to and who we sell to.
That's an interesting point, right? Where, and even from the investment side, you're probably seeing a lot of companies pitching the fully autonomous feature, and you kind of almost have to sound different, to sound hype, to capitalize on the AI agent wave right now. But that's an interesting point, which is depending on who your ICP is, if you're selling to like an earlier stage company versus later stage, if you're selling a later stage, maybe you can actually afford to sell more of a human in the loop solution because the cost of failure is higher and the buyers presumably understand that as well. And so are you finding that like if you guys were to go down market, you would have to pitch more of that stage 3, that more of the agentic behavior versus if you are the more upmarket you are, whether it's you guys or, another company or us, that you do have to pitch more of a human in the loop experience to actually succeed?
If you think about how people are incentivized in general, especially when you start to get into larger orgs, people are incentivized by more fear than by opportunity possibility. You definitely can get more than a slap on the wrist if you do something incorrectly, meaning you send out something that is like wildly off brand, off message, you piss somebody off, you get a ton of unsubscribes. Versus startup, it's
Right.
fine. You know what I mean? Like you send
Yeah.
out an email with completely inaccurate information and a your name little thing at the bottom because you forgot to change it. Nobody really cares. And so I just think the cost of failure goes up and up as you get to larger orgs. Similarly, in terms of how you leverage data, that becomes much more sensitive, much more challenging in terms of what you can actually do. And so I do think that that's a wild difference in terms of startup versus enterprise. And I think you're going to see a somewhat bifurcation in terms of adoption of a lot of these AI tools. We're going to have these startups that are just running everything you can imagine in all the AI companies. It's funny. I follow a lot of the companies that are fundraising and the earlier companies. And if you look at the logos, everyone's selling to each other. And this is the nature of the tech
Yeah.
world, but it's all
Yeah.
these net new AI companies selling to net new AI companies, which again, we saw this with SaaS. It's going to continue to happen. But on the enterprise side, you're going to see much more caution when it comes to that.
Got it. This brings me to the next set of questions I have, which is more around how should younger people who are maybe just entering the marketing space, I mean, everyone's building these tools now, right? And so that's great for efficiency. But what happens to people, new college grads, young early career marketers who are trying to figure out what they should be doing today? Is there, in your world, right, or in our world, I guess, do we see that we still need these really skilled, talented marketers? And what is the skill set that they need if the software is doing like 90% of it, if not more?
I still think that there's a ton of opportunity for young people. And number one, tools do not manage themselves. This is one of I will die on this hill. I keep talking to early stage companies, and this could be anywhere up until Series B. People buy a tool thinking it's buying them a human. And what I mean by that, they think it's going to buy them the strategy and the bandwidth that they're lacking. It is not. A tool does not bring you strategy, and a tool does not bring you bandwidth. The tool actually probably in the short term adds more overhead. You need somebody to set up that tool, to manage that tool, to calibrate that tool, to measure the success of that tool. So that is the exact opposite of what you're going to get when you buy a tool. Yet I see this so frequently. People buy a tool, but they really want a human. The best thing a young person can do, though, is get really proficient with AI tools. And that doesn't mean you have to learn all of the tools. It means you learn how to learn a net new tool, meaning how do you prompt? How do you automate? How do you start configuring workflows that are, eventually moving towards true agentic behavior? Getting really good at that and really confident in that, I think is the best sellable skill you can achieve right now. The other thing I think we're going to start seeing, especially when it comes to marketing and sales, is I think we're going to take a gigantic swing in the opposite direction where things are going to move offline. That means physical events. That means showing up with people. That means sitting in the same room with people. And I think that a lot of stuff is going to happen that way if you're not a PLG low price point, put it on a credit card type company. I think for enterprise, I think that you're going to start to see a lot more in person. A lot of the digital channels, the efficacy is just taking a nosedive. SEO obviously is tanking. Everyone's trying to figure out GEO. You have digital ads, which I think everyone is trying to figure out what happens when Google search
Yeah.
does not become the dominant force anymore. You have email now just being a complete spam bucket because of AI in large part. So nobody is answering their emails. You have limited efficacy on other digital channels. So where do you go? You have to go offline. And I just see that being also another thing where, despite it not being such a high tech skill, learning how to do things like that. So, how do you get creative when it comes to meeting people where they are physically?
Hmm.
Events, physical mail, gifting, influencer, like again, get creative. I just think that that's also another area where people should be thinking about when it comes to marketing and sales, because I do think for medium and enterprise companies, it's going to be a big channel.
Well, I don't know if, and I don't think at least, I don't think colleges are, you know, they usually don't have a class on, hey, here's how to use agent tooling to, be more efficient. So how do you actually learn this stuff? I mean, I know at this point, right, in my career, like what to do, but I don't think I knew in college what I would have done at this point, right? Aside from going and trying to find internships and, doing kind of the whatever people are telling me to do. Is there something specific that somebody's specifically looking for a marketing role or is aspiring to go into the marketing space after graduating can do, let's say by next week to start getting ready for this?
Man, this is the lovely part of being, in college right now versus when I was in college. There's an unlimited number of podcasts and newsletters that will just give you on a daily or weekly basis the net new tools, the net new things you should be playing with. So subscribe to a couple of those, listen to a couple of the podcasts, and then anytime they mention a tool, most likely there's a free version or a free trial. Just go play, right? And one tool will lead you to another tool, will lead you to another tool. But I would say things like play around with some of these no-code vibe coding tools like a Lovable, or I mean, there's a million new ones. I just played with Hey Boss. There's some of the agent builders like Manus or GenSpark or
Yeah.
whatever. There's unlimited number of things, and it's really easy to find them because people are aggregating them. There's already
Yeah.
content creators that is their sole purpose to aggregate. So find
Yeah.
an aggregator, subscribe to their newsletter, go and click on every link in there, and just play for 5 minutes with the free version.
Okay. I think that's really good advice. Basically, make a Twitter account and go follow all the AI influencers and start using these tools.
And then one thing even better, then go post about your experience. That's the one thing I will
Yes.
tell people. The earlier you start having a public presence, and I hated this. This is not something that's natural to me. I waited far
Yeah.
too long to be publicly writing on the internet. The earlier you do this, the better it will be for your career.
I want to now shift a little bit to the investor lens as well, right? What are you seeing today? And I don't know how active you are with investing right now, but whether it's now, whether it's, in the past when you did it, I'm assuming you were investing in go-to-market SaaS, at least to some extent.
Yeah, I'm not particularly active in net new investments at all right
Sure.
now. I still have some board seats and I still help with diligence. So I see companies, but I was investing seed stage across a bunch of categories, including go-to-market SaaS.
Okay, awesome. What's a common red flag or something that you kind of know is not going to work, but maybe a lot of people are still pitching, especially in these GTM startups today? And any words of caution?
Such a great question. Here's one of my personal pet peeves. I kept getting companies pitching me that they were going to be PLG, yet the core part of their product involved a deep integration to like Salesforce. Not gonna happen. If your product requires any kind of sensitive information, deep integration, secure thing like that, it cannot be PLG, which is fine. You don't need to build a PLG company. That's one immediate red flag. One other thing too, I will caution people, and I think I've gotten to learn this both on the investor side, seeing all forms of co-founder issues, and then also now having two co-founders of my own where it's been very, very smooth. Co-founders matter a lot, and there's a couple things to know and to be careful of. I think that the best co-founding teams have the same speed of execution, style of communication, but not overlapping skill sets. And the reason why is to build a company, you're going to be moving a million miles an hour. And if one person is moving at a certain speed and the other one isn't, you're going to have massive friction. Communication, especially in those early days, but even as the company grows, is so critical to making sure people are on the same page and also that you're building the company you want to build. So having that similar style of communication, extremely critical. And then non-overlapping skill sets. If you have two people that have the same skill set, one person is ultimately going to be the CEO and making that decision. The other person is going to feel resentful or try to nitpick. And you also have 90% of the business where nobody is owning because you both want to own that thing. So even if you don't have full ownership over every part of the business, making sure you guys have swim lanes or everyone has swim lanes is really important. I would say that's another one. And here's my last least favorite thing. Please do not show me a slide when you are pre-revenue and pre-product launch that is, here's how in 5 years we're going to be $100 million in revenue. I don't care. That's a useless slide. It is inaccurate for 99.99% of companies, and it's not adding anything to the story. So don't do it. Also, my other big pet peeve, don't start your slide, the first slide, with X category is broken. What does that even mean? Nothing is broken. It's a category.
Yeah.
That means it's working. So I hate that phrase.
Okay. On a totally unrelated note, I need to go modify a few slides. I'm kidding. That was a joke. Awesome. I think great advice there for sure. And I think that applies broadly across, even beyond GTM tech specifically, for sure. But I mean, I just don't want to see another AI SDR, please.
Oh yeah, please stop with those two. We have enough.
And last set of questions, what's been the hardest part so far for you as a founder? I know I don't think you had done like a software company founder role in the past. So this is your first one. What has been the hardest thing so far? And what lessons have you learned?
I think for
Aside from the ones you just told
me,
me.
yeah, I think for me, part of it has been building specifically in the generative AI space and how fast it moves and how there've always been category kings that people are scared of. You know, Salesforce, if you're building any kind of sales tech, Shopify, if you're building anything in the e-commerce space, that are notorious for also building a feature and wiping out a whole category of companies. I think that if anybody building in the AI space is not absolutely terrified of OpenAI, they should be. And I think that's also where we're trying to predict what's going to happen in the next few years. And that's nearly impossible with the speed things are moving. And I think that has just been a challenge for us to navigate, to think through where do we want to go to build a giant company in this space that also feels defensible and protected from what might happen specifically with OpenAI. They've just won the lion's share. And also they have a war chest that can buy them a lot. So I think that's been challenging. And then I would say the last piece for us in particular is we from day one built the platform play, which is extremely hard, but we did it on purpose. And we did it on purpose because we knew that building these point solutions was going to be easier than ever. So we wanted to make sure that our brand was from a we can do all of these things. You don't need to go buy 5-point solutions. And that's really compelling. That also means you had to build a lot of product really fast that did a lot of things. And I think there's some areas that, you get 80% of the way there, but then that last
Yeah.
20% is really tricky. And so I think
Yeah.
that's also been a challenge for us of just trying to build a whole platform from day one.
I totally get it. I mean, we have similar problems as well. And so it's always a struggle of like, do we focus or do we build what we think is right
Yes,
and build more than necessary? But so I think it's always a balancing act.
totally.
Elaine, thank you so much. This is great. I learned a ton. We hope to have you on another one of these. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. See you soon.
All right. Thanks, Elaine.
Bye.